We'd like to welcome you to the Lake Central School Board meeting for Monday, April 15th, 2019. If you could join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is a sign-up sheet in the back of the room if you would like to make a comment during or at the end of our school board meeting. And today is tax day, so I hope everybody has got their taxes done. Moving on.
Nobody laughed.
Nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes taxes. Moving on to our agenda, our approvals, deletions, and additions. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you, Mr. Baxter. You do have some revisions on your agenda at your workstation. Under 7A, there is a 5 Shareable SRO agreement. Under 7D, there are some additions to 1 and 2 of D. And then under H, Mr. James' section, there is an update on unpaid student fees.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Lessentine. Just beat you there, Howard.
That's all right.
All right. Any comments or questions regarding those approvals, deletions, or additions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there any correspondence, Ms. Suze?
There is none.
Thank you. This evening, since we have so many recognitions, we're going to table our liaison committee updates to our following board meeting. So we're going to move on to our official school board business topics, our consent agenda. Dr. Rocco.
Thank you again. Seek board approval for the minutes from our April 1st executive session as well as our regular meeting, and board approval for the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures you received last week in your packets.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Lessentine
Second.
and a second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding that consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And now we're seeking a public comments regarding our action items. And hearing none, we move on to our official school board business topics for this evening. Our regular agenda, Dr. Rocco.
Thank you, and I'd ask the board at this time to reconvene in the front. We're going to have some recognitions of outstanding student achievement, and we're going to begin with Kaler. So if Mr. Newton and anybody else who's going to be presenting want to meet us down front, we'll do that at this time.
Good evening, members of the board. I am glad to be able to be here tonight to present some awards for some of our students' achievements. I will start with our choir. On behalf of our choir director, Mrs. Courtney Pallas, I'd like to recognize 3 of our students at the solo state competition back on February 16th. 3 of our students earned a gold rating with distinction, highest honor at state for singing. And at this time, I would like to have the following students please come on up to the front. Izzy Contreras, Ellie Planner, and Ethan Radaza. Also, I'd like to give a little special extra recognition to Ethan Radaza. The following weekend on February 23rd at the state instrument solo competition, he earned a gold with distinction for the violin. If I can please have their parents stand. At this time, I would like to recognize our band director, Mrs. Lita Lopez. She's been at Kaler for a number of years, and at the ISMA Organizational Contest, which is their state competition for band, back on March 15th, her 7th grade band earned gold with distinction in Group 3, and her 8th grade group earned gold with the Group 1, in Group 1, which is the highest group that you can perform at state. So, excellent job.
Just really proud of our students, and it's really great to be a part of just a tradition of excellence at Kaler. And just wanted to mention that our groups at Kaler have received gold every year that I've been the director there so far. So I've been there since, started in the fall of 1995. It's been a while. I do have 2 students that I would like to recognize. I think they're here this evening. Austin Bodie, come on up. And Owen Reardon. These 2 students were selected for Junior All-State Band, which is sponsored by IMEA and the Indiana Band Masters Association. And they auditioned for this group out of students all over the state of Indiana. They picked 100 students to be a part of this honor band that played on the weekend of January 17th through the 19th for the final concert of the IMEA Professional Development Conference. So big congratulations to them. It takes a huge amount of work. You don't get this by accident. I mean, they are incredibly talented, but not only that, they work very, very hard. So let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations. Also, in conjunction with this recognition, Austin also received a gold in Group 1 at the state competition in Indianapolis at North Central High School on February 23rd. And we want to recognize his abilities on his trombone solo at the state contest. Congratulations. And then also, Owen Reardon is a member of the CYSO, the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra. And again, it's quite an honor to have him as part of our band and be such a talented young man and to be a part of our group and also be such a talent in Chicago. So congratulations to him as well.
If I can please have their parents stand.
Good evening. First time the microphone's too short for me, ever. Ms. Volrath is laughing, one of my teachers. That's not funny. This year, Kaler and Grimmer combined our dance team, and we were state champions in hip-hop. At this time, I would like to introduce our coaches, Kelly, Kaylin, and Alex, who are going to announce the girls.
My name is Kelly Butler. I'm the coach at Kaler.
And I'm Kaylin Guglielmo, one of the coaches at Grimmer.
And I'm Alex Mealy, and I'm also the other coach at Grimmer.
Yeah, no, you're fine. We just wanted to quickly say how proud we are of the girls. This is the first time our middle schools combined as one to compete, and we are so proud of the success that they accomplished. They worked extremely hard, and I think they represented both schools extremely well as far as merging as one team and respecting everybody as one. And so we can't be any more proud, and thank you to the girls and the parents for their organization and helping the season run really smooth. So, good job, guys. Okay, so we will start with the Kaler girls, if you guys can come down. Natalie Burklack. Mariah Crawford. Abby Oladende. Taylor Rippey. Amira Youssef. Okay, so those were the Kaler girls. So now we'll move on to the Grimmer side. Vivian Denson. Peyton Fieldhouse. Reagan Sedaris. Olivia Hill. Lacey Gilio. Cool. Simone Mercer. Brooke Boggs. Christina Amanatitis. Alex Rhodes. Okay, so that rounds out our Kaler Grimmer State Championship team.
State this year, and they were runners-up and then placed second in hip-hop and fifth in jazz. So congratulations to our team. My second recognition. We have the parents, please stand. Kids. My second recognition tonight goes to Leo Lavoy. Leo, if you could come on down, please. Leo competed in the Indiana State competition at IUPUI on Friday in the state geography bee. It's on Friday, March 29th. He was eliminated in the preliminary round, but finished in the top 50 in the state. Great job, Leo. And his sponsor is Mr. Putman. I don't know if Mr. Putman's there. I think he may be at a football game tonight. Leo, could you introduce your parents here?
Oh, yeah, that's my Aunt Erin. My dad is sitting down in Trinity.
And my final recognition, I'm going to ask Ms. Gleason to come forward. Ms. Gleason was our sponsor for Future Problem Solvers. This year we had an individual that's just outstanding. The Indiana Future Problem Solvers Scenario Writing is a competition which students grades 4 through 12 develop short stories related to one of 5 topics. The story is set at least 20 years in the future and is an imagined but logical outcome of actions and events taking place in the world today. This year, Ben Kaminsky was a junior winner for the state of Indiana. Ben will receive a t-shirt at the competition later on and will be recognized at the Future Problem Solvers International Conference in June in Massachusetts. Ben, could you introduce your parents and whoever's here with you tonight?
Now I'll introduce Mr. Sean Bagley, high school principal.
And Mrs. Chavez. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it tonight, but let me talk about what. All right, Shelby is being recognized for being selected as a regional award winner for the National Center for Women in Infotech. She was selected for her computing, her IT aptitude, her leadership, and her academic history. She's a 16-year-old with a great academic track record. She's taken some of our hardest classes. And since I have many middle schoolers here, I'd just like to just say we are offering many different AP computer courses. We have both AP computer courses, which Shelby will probably take, and we'll also be having cybersecurity as a new class next year. And we're hoping to see more of our students win some of these IT awards, and I will certainly have a nice little award ceremony for in my office tomorrow. And I thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to be moving on to the rest of our board meeting tonight. I want to thank all you parents for coming out. We asked you to stand because we want you to know we appreciate your part of supporting your students to achieve greatness. So we're going to move on with the rest of our meeting. You can certainly depart for other things. This is a good time to do that. Thank you for coming.
Don't get mad for me checking the cum store. I got to get done with my stuff first.
Well, if I had some answers, understood. I don't have. Carol was one of our Carol, young man going to Massachusetts. That's his granddaughter. She was one of our sons. She was a very dependent lady. Yeah, knows the family too. Bye, Carol.
Bye, Carol.
See you.
I recognize you.
His mother.
You did do a lot of subbing.
She was one of our best. She was one of our best.
His mother,
You were.
Jill, and my middle brother kept bringing
I couldn't remember. There's too many people. Too many moons ago.
They're good people.
All right.
Did you see what was going on in Paris?
Give them a couple more minutes.
Will they walk out?
They're gonna, as soon as that group gets out the door, then chop it in.
Okay. All right, we'll continue with our school board meeting. Dr. Varacco.
Thank you, Mr. Bax. So my next item is to seek board approval for some professional leave requests. They are for me and Mrs. Suze and Dr. Malka to attend. First, the ICPE rally tomorrow. That's a mileage claim. And then also mileage for me personally to attend an IASBO function, as well as a State Music Association board meeting in May.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malko.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Lessentine. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to give the board an update about the State of the Workforce 2018 Northwest Indiana Workforce Board meeting I attended last Wednesday. For the purposes of the data in this study, it was from 7 counties in Northwest Indiana: Lake, Porter, LaPorte, Newton, Jasper, Stark, and Pulaski. I found it interesting that the data they shared was that of the 2014 student graduates in our region that they could track, 38% of them had received a post-secondary credential or degree. That matches up to a 2025 goal for the Center for Workforce Innovation of 60%. So we're 2/3 of the way there. Now we have to see how we get that last 22% over that secondary credential. Other interesting pieces of data was that the healthcare sector continues to be the top area for job growth. One of the reasons I attended this summit was to hear hopefully what they had in mind for what they were looking for from high schools to better prepare students so they could more successfully enter that field. I found it interesting that of the top 10 largest occupations in the 7 counties studied, 7 of those occupations earn a full-time annual income of approximately $31,000. So what we want to do, of course, is look at what those other positions are where we can make a higher salary than that. It's difficult to maintain a household on a $31,000 income. The most important piece that I got out of the summit is the 6th bullet, and this center estimates with their data that by 2030, 50% of our region workers will have their tasks reduced or eliminated by technology, and I put this part in quotes, that has already been proven effective. It was enlightening for me because I actually thought that a lot of those giant leaps forward, if you will, in technology, especially in the manufacturing area and affiliated spaces, had already significantly reduced the number of workers. But apparently I've got some more research to do in that because there's a whole other wave of technology that's going to take away positions. Based on the data they shared, I think a lot of those jobs are some things I hadn't previously thought of, even though I experience it already. If I go to Panera Bread, I can order without a cashier. And so I think cashiers are going to be one of the major professions in the service industry that you're going to see a reduction in the number of people needed to serve those companies. It was exciting to hear many of the employers there talk about work ethic certificates because Lake Central is participating in that program, and we have a growing number of students who are achieving that. And when I was asked informally during a break, I told them they can trust that work ethic certificate because it's early enough on that if somebody's achieving it, they're not just doing the minimum to get it. And so that was interesting. And I was really happy to hear it because if you go back 6 or 8 years, when a lot of schools participated in the work keys, when we got to a summit like this and asked the employers what they thought about it, were they finding that they were hiring a higher percentage of students who had the work keys certificate? They didn't know what it was. So this was a good sign. They still really value soft skills. They still have a lot of trouble with many highly trained people. And I was at the healthcare breakout session, including skilled registered nurses who know what they're doing, but they struggle with the soft skills required to be truly effective in that industry. So they were doing a lot of discussing about what can we do to help those people who already achieved the knowledge base to be effective, but need those other skills to be even more effective. They feel that some of those folks, especially in the nursing profession, have reached the height of what they can achieve unless they learn to deal with people better. So there were several other things. I was there to figure out how we can build better relationships with employers, and many of them are interested in taking on interns, if you will, or having practicums in their places, and we just need to continue to do what our guidance department and our people at the high school are already doing to expand it more, because we know that those real-life experiences really help students. So we'll continue to look at programmatic upgrades that can help better prepare our graduates. And I think we have a decent group to help us along that way, and we continue to, participate in Ready as well, which also does affiliated things, even though it's more geared towards college prep. So, any questions from the board at this time?
Any questions from the board? None. Thank you.
Dr. Berko, who attends those meetings? Is it just like schools?
This particular meeting was mostly businesses. So if you picture the Joe Medellins of the world, he's one of the opening speakers. So the large employers, NIPSCO, ArcelorMittal, the Times, and so there weren't too many educators there, actually. I think that because most of them attend Ready, and Ready pushes some of this information down to us. But because they had the piece on healthcare, I wanted to hear what they had to say. It wasn't exactly what I expected, to be truthful, but I did hear some interesting things.
I'm glad you were there.
Yep.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you for that report.
Larry?
Yes, sir.
Just an additional question. In Northwest Indiana, there's been a gentleman, Calvin Bellamy, has been very, very active with the ethics issue. Is he out of the picture now, or did he attend this?
No, Rob and I went to the ethics summit a couple of weeks ago, and he was still there. He wasn't. Okay. He wasn't the keynote. He wasn't the MC anymore.
Okay.
That's been the president from Cal College at St. Joseph the last couple of years, but Cal was still there. I said hi to him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still very important to him.
He's instrumental in getting everybody to sign on, so to speak, throughout the myriad numbers of occupations. So.
I've got a good article related to that for you, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. From
my Rotary magazine about the four-way test and comparing it to contemporary politics. I'll share that with you.
Good. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My next item is on the agenda for both Mr. Marshall and Dr. Malco, and it is a resolution supporting Red for Education that was sent to us by some concerned teachers, and so I'd turn it over to them at this time.
To us or the teachers?
To you.
Oh.
Okay. I'm without my glasses here. I had a pair here. I'm not sure. Is Emily in the audience?
I don't see her.
I'm just the recipient of this resolution, so I'm not really in a position to become her advocate or advocate for the particular resolution. Dr. Malkow or Mrs. Lessentine, you sent out an email forwarding the information too.
I didn't realize at the time that we had already had it on here to discuss. I don't have anything to discuss about it right now.
Well,
we can table it for this evening and bring it back.
I think it's an initiative that we all received a copy of, and I think it's coming out of ISTA perhaps. Yes. But to me, there were some really good points that were made in it, and you know, someone had made the comment, well, I think the legislators are supporting us more this year. And that's great and fine and dandy, but then you've got those 10 years where they didn't support us. And so you've got that retro pay, and we are still one of the lowest funded states in the country. So I thought it was a good document to sign on to. I'm not sure how everyone else felt about it.
No, I agree with you. It's a very good document. We might have to tweak it a little bit, but I thought it was, from reading through it, appropriate for all of us as a board to support, if we would all like to go down that aisle. If we want to do that, we can go ahead and table this and look at it and see if there's anything that we need to modify on it, and then maybe get back together at our next board meeting
I think that's a reasonable approach.
and accept it at that point.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead. If there's any modifications we have to do, we'll do it before our next board meeting, and then we'll have an action item on it next time.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. And my final item is to seek board approval for the Town of Shareable and Lake Central School Corporation School Resource Officer Agreement that you've received previously via email, and the worksheet that includes those officer costs was attached in well, it wasn't attached, it was sent in a separate email to you this afternoon. So I would open up to any questions anyone may have about that item, but I seek board approval of that agreement.
I'd like to take this opportunity to move to accept that agreement in lieu of any comments from my fellow board members.
I would like to make a quick comment, though, before we do this. First of all, I am all for SRO officers in our schools. I am all for working with the towns. The only problem I have with this SRO agreement is the fact that they have added administrative fees that the other towns have not added. And as soon as we agree to this administrative fee of, am I allowed to say what the administrative fee is?
Sure.
Okay, of over $8,000, I believe. That's going to multiply by 5, and now we're looking at an extra $40,000 a year because one town decided they wanted to put in administrative fees that we still don't have a line item for. We still don't know what these fees exactly are. We just know they're administrative. So please know that when I make my vote tonight, it is not against SROs in any way, shape, or form. I think we need them. I think we need to do this. But it is against the people who put the agreement together, making it different than Dyer and St. John, and therefore upping our fees for all of them. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Malco with the second. All right. And we have one comment already from Ms. Lessentine. Are there any other comments regarding this SRO agreement?
Do you have any, Howard?
No.
Okay.
Well, I guess I would agree with the, there's no clarity as to what the administration does involve, and that would be a concern because we do need to be fiscally responsible. But yet, at the same time, I really would like to have that SRO officer in our buildings. So it's one of those catch-22s that we have going on. So.
Even if it is approved, though, I would still like information. I would still like to know what that line item is. Our taxpayers deserve to know what that administrative fee is. If they can do that in their line items, that's fine, but we have people that we have to answer to. So I just want to know what it is.
Okay. Definitely. All right. Let's take a vote on that. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposition, but motion passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bracco. All right, moving on to our Director of Human Resources, Terry Mucha.
Thank you very much. We are looking for the following appointments, transfers, and resignations to be approved, but I want to draw attention to Ms. Plesha, a school service provider retiring at the end of the year with 20 years of service.
Wow.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Suze, and I'll second that motion. Any comments or questions regarding those personnel recommendations? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Tonight, we're fortunate to have 2 of our booster clubs with us, and their treasurers are here to give us a short financial report. First, we have Cindy Ring, who's going to talk to us about band boosters.
Cindy.
Does she need to speak into the microphone so people online?
If
The
you
people
could, right?
online
Yeah, the people
can't
online.
hear you unless you speak
That's why we have
into the
these wireless,
microphone.
these
Yes.
wireless mics now. It
we
picks
good now?
up the voices better. Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that better?
That's
Yes.
All right. Everyone's got the treasurer's report, I believe?
Yes.
This was our most recent, approved at our board meeting for March. And I'm just going to quickly go over some few key items. On the far left, you'll see that that's our budgeted item for all of our income for this 18-19 year. Some of the larger ones that you may be well aware of are our cash raffle. Used to be our car raffle. We had a hard time giving that car away. It's always nice to have that car there, but we did very well. We ended up with a profit of $20,900. Some spiritware. Our other big item is our discount cards that we give out. Those are a very popular item. We get a lot of people that come up looking for those year to year. We've made $13,430 on that this past year. Our biggest, as you will see, is our December craft fair. And that keeps growing and growing, and we're so excited about that and already planning it for this coming December, as we just finished our spring one. But that exceeded our budget, and we made almost $24,000 on that. Craft fair for the spring is growing too. It is just a slower, not as well attended as the Christmas one, but again, we exceeded our budget on that as well. Concessions for football was down. We had some weather issues and things like that this past year, but that's usually a really, really good fundraiser for us. And you'll see we have an additional concession. That is our flag football that we've been honored to be able to man and use that as a huge fundraiser for us. Our spring season is coming up, so we look forward to gaining some more income on that. So you'll see that we're a little bit under budget. Our sponsorships were low. We did not have a chairperson to man that whole undertaking this season, so we're a little bit low on that. But with all that being said, we ended up with an income of $86,000. Flip to the other side and just kind of explain some of the expenses that the band boosters are responsible for. Lake Central's band program is a huge program, and there are a lot of expenses that are not included in the student fees. We are not required, but we are responsible for transportation to all the events. Whether it's down to Indianapolis, Ohio, we need to get all their equipment there. So along with that comes paying our semi-driver. The trailer is owned, but we need someone to get us there. So you'll see that is a huge $12,000. Last year was a smaller schedule of events. We did not go to Grand Nationals, which is a multi-day event. We didn't do another Indy regional, so it was a little bit smaller. So next year we expect that budget to be much greater. Our scissor lift, that's to get our directors up to see the whole field out there when they're practicing. So we have to pay for the rental for that. Props, these shows can get quite extravagant if you see some of them. So that we pay for that. We've got a contract. We have paid the guard director for his additional work with us. And along with that, we've got our winter programs that comes along with that. We've got winter guard expenses that we budget them, as well as our winter percussion that just ended. Both of them just ended their season. We also have some budgeted items for our trailer. Again, we own the trailer, but we would like to do some improvements to it. It needs to be tweaked on the inside so we can utilize our space more efficiently in there. And along with that, I'm going to go on to next year. We've got a huge schedule coming up. I think they've got 7 or 8 shows that are on the schedule to attend. Ohio, a couple Indy, and then local high schools. And along with that, our budget, we help help feed them, get them there, of course. So we're really excited for next year. So along with that, it's going to come some major hitting of fundraising. We're also looking, on the bottom, on the far bottom left, where we've got our account totals. There was a fund the field line item.
that was, we were trying to get a designated practice field for them. We've been lucky, and everyone worked with us on the board and in the school, and we got our gates down there so that they have a safe practice area. So now that budget item can be shifted somewhere. So again, we're looking at our trailer again. We need to utilize our space, and we want to revamp it. That wrap's been on there. It's starting to come off. We want to kind of snazz it up a little bit. So I think that one we're going to kind of shift to our trailer so that they're looking good when they go to these programs. And another thing we've got coming up Thursday is our spring concert. That is going to be all of the ensembles are going to be performing, as well as our awards night. Seniors Guard will be there as well, and they have other senior awards, and we are proud to present 3 scholarships this year totaling $4,000 to 3 students that have been chosen. So there'll be a $2,000 award for the top winner and 2 $1,000.
Awesome.
Can't tell you the names yet. So I mean, we try to do good. These kids work hard. It's a lot of work, but it's a ton of fun. So we're looking forward to next season.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And from Centralettes, we have Rob Zarin.
Rob, before you start,
Yes.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Regarding the flag football. Miss Ring? For the flag football, did you say you guys are doing concession stand for the flag? Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. I apologize. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
First of all, thank you. Thank you to the board as well as the staff. Here to give a report on LCCPA, which is Lake Centralettes Parents Association. Does everyone have a copy of financial statement? Sorry for the print size. I tried to do the best I could. A little bit different format probably than last year. For those of you who are familiar, I tried to add some detail in here. Working from the left, you'll see kind of our QuickBook chart of accounts and sub-accounts. And then in the center, I tried to add a description so you get a feel for what's really in those buckets. And then, of course, the dollars are on the right. So just working through the report. This report basically scans from May 1st through yesterday, Sunday, April 14th, and gives a picture of, our income and our expenses throughout this past season. Okay, let's go through this. So you see the first line item. I'll just kind of work through the major accounts. You can see the sub-accounts, and we'll see if there's any questions. First line item is tuition that we collect from all the dancers. One thing I wanted to point out here, we actually were down in enrollment, but we held the tuition fees and actually reduced them for varsity. The reason JV fees are a little bit higher than you're probably used to seeing is our JV team went to nationals this past year. We needed the additional fees to help cover those expenses. Special events, that just captures some dollars we have to collect for tickets for our banquet, state rings, kind of miscellaneous things like that. And then we kind of get into our fundraising. Individual business contributions, which we have a first line item there is around donations that are from local business owners, not associated with our ad book. Next item is the business donations that go into our program for our Lake Central Invitational Dance Competition. And you can see there, that's one of our bigger fundraisers, over $8,000 collected that go into that ad book. That next item is Centralettes, where we kind of have a $50 charge per dancer where they have to sponsor their own ad. Then going down to the rest of our fundraising, you're probably familiar with tag days, or what we call canning. If you shop at Walmart or Rob's, you may have seen our Centralettes out there. Yep. Asking for support and giving candy in return. Also had the opportunity to do a sale of the simple coupon books, where basically we sell those books. Half the profit comes back to the dancers to help fund their accounts. We had a few dancers work for the Barracudas. in a swim event, do some timing and such. That income came in. And then really our big line item, the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, where parents such as myself, we go and work weekends and other weeknights, work a booth at the old Tweeter Center. And we bring money in through our 501c3, and then we can assign that basically to dancers' accounts to help offset costs. And just to let you know, that is a huge fundraiser for us. We had 2 families who actually have paid all the cost of dance over the last 2 years through that fundraiser, and many more families that have worked and offset a lot of the costs. So you can see total income right there is about $124,000.
Question, Rob?
Yes.
Looking at the last highlighted area, the Hollywood Casino, that's an Illinois operation, is it not?
Correct.
Okay. How'd you get it?
You know what? Me personally inherited it. I don't know the full history.
You do that a lot.
They've been doing a lot.
It's been going on for a while now for Centralettes, but basically, if you go to that venue, most of the people you see walking around with a Hollywood Casino shirt on are organizations just like us. You basically volunteer time. The better you do, the better the booths you get. It's cash that comes in untaxed because of the nonprofit. And actually, I think the band is now participating in this. So it is a wonderful fundraiser. You don't have to bug anyone for anything, to buy anything. You just give up some time.
That's great.
Thank you.
The Chicago Bears actually do that as well and work and allow schools to work their concession stands.
There's other venues, all the music venues in Illinois. I know Purdue does it as well. When I'm down there, I've visited with people and asked them, hey, what organization are you with? So a lot of organizations, sports, Cub Scouts, things like that. It's pretty awesome.
Great.
Okay. Going through to the expenses. First item in there, again, working through kind of the larger chart of accounts, you see instruction. Definitely one of our biggest ticket items for dance. The subcategories are spelled out there, but lots of instruction throughout a 10-month period for 25 girls. We have choreographers that come in to get our dances ready. We have intensives in the summer to get the girls ready to kind of move into the season time. They have the instruction throughout the year as part of the team. There's also classes that's included in here. So that is definitely a big ticket item for us. You see the facility rental there. Most of that is the M2 studio, but there's also some facility rentals that we use at Nationals to get ready when we're there. Bunch of different items there under operations. Competition fees, costumes. I won't read through those. I'll let you read through those. Try to give you a little bit of color on what goes into those items, and you can see the total amount there. Pulled out a couple of items. Just we have some transportation costs tied to moving the girls around at Nationals, as well as one of our competitions that was at Louisville this year. We had to get some transportation to get the girls down there. And then on the fundraising expense side, just kind of the cost associated with those different fundraisers. Big one I wanted to point out there, you see the amphitheater dollars brought in here as an expense, because that's allocated out to the dancers' accounts. Then some insurance and a few other items down here in these other expenses, which are a minor piece. But you can see the expenses are right around the cost dollars. Total income expense net, ordinary income is $1,169 at this point.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your work.
I have a question. So I see Mr. Mathis back there, and are you going to bring your girls in front of us for recognition? Are you awake? Huh? Would love to see them. Yeah. Such a great program, and we appreciate your support.
Could I say one more thing?
Sure.
I made a big mistake already. I turned around. I forgot to recognize our board.
Oh, cool. We'll do that.
3/4 of us are here.
Okay.
Introduce myself, Jeannie Nowacki, our president, in the back of the room.
Oh, how nice. We know her.
Alicia Hardesty, sitting with Coach, is our secretary. And then Lisa Alvarez, who's not here tonight, is vice president.
Thank you, Rob.
And Rob, thank you for all you do as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also, today, I am very honored to have some very special people that went down to the Whole Child Summit with Teresa and Sarah and I, and they are going to present some of the why behind why social emotional is so important for us. And we're also keeping in mind, go slow to go fast. So the first things we're going to talk about is the why this is so important to our students and to our staff. So if they would like to come up and introduce themselves and show us, they have a little slideshow for us.
Presentation here?
That's why I interrupted you at the wrong time.
He said to use this one. Hello? On testing. Can you hear it? Oh, okay. Where's everybody at? Okay. Is this on? I don't hear anything.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of the brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a
In closing, you've heard this several times, but this is a process. It's not a product. When we were at the Whole Child Summit in Bloomington, there were many vendors there who were trying to get us to purchase all different types of programs and curriculums and lessons and activities. And the truth is, if we were to give that to our staff without explanation, it's just going to be a colossal failure. And so what we want to do is truly change that culture here at Lake Central. And that means teaching the rest of our staff all that we have learned at the Whole Child Summit, as well as what our teachers have learned over the course of the days that we brought in Dr. Desautel's. So again, we're going to start by focusing on the why. And we truly believe that once our staff can see our students differently and understand the neuroscience behind why they might be seeing certain behaviors, that they're going to interact with that child differently. And that is without us putting any sort of curriculum or program within their hands. If they just understand the research behind it, it makes an awful lot of sense and explains the increase that we're seeing within our schools. They need to understand the impact that stress and adversity is having on our students. They need to understand the impact that stress is having on their own brain state as they come into the classrooms. And we need to support them as best we can so that way they can develop strategies to help themselves as well as help our students develop those coping skills that they need so that way they can persevere. They have to have those relationships. They have to have that resiliency before any learning can really take place and our kids can reach their full potential. So all of the staff that has attended the summit, as well as attended the training with Dr. Desautel's, doesn't really feel like this is just one more thing that we need to do as teachers. They feel this is one of the most important things that we can do as educators, is by focusing on this social emotional development. And so that is something that we've been trying to put a plan in place in order to move forward. And Teresa's going to talk a little bit about the plan, if we could just advance one more slide. Thank you.
So what are our next steps to go slow to implement this? Earlier this year, we developed resiliency teams at each of the 10 buildings. These were put together by principals, and those team members attended the training with Dr. Desautel's in March and April. So those teams are going to help us develop and implement the corporation-wide plan. They'll also serve as role models for staff members. Many of the resiliency team members went back to their schools and they're implementing some of the strategies and practices that she taught us. And then sharing with the other staff members just how well it is working in their classroom. Additionally, we'll have a K-12 counseling coordinator next year, and this person will not only help us develop our plan, but also ensure that we have consistency in counseling and SEL programming at all of our schools, K-12. Also, adding counselors at all developmental levels so that we have the support that our students and staff members need. And then finally, more training with Dr. Desautel's. She'll be in Hobart in June, and we are offering that to staff members to attend. We will also have her back here at LC in the fall to train our next wave, our next group of staff members. Any questions for any of us?
We have a lot to do. And this is, they told us at the summit, we could expect to spend 45 years developing a good program. Don't put something in before we're ready to do that. So don't we have a good group to start with?
One question I have is, you all as counselors at the elementary and middle school, and I saw all those 5 different categories of needs. Do you see any
typically we put our new staff members through it or anyone else who wants to attend again once the new staff is in. Sorry, the CRIS training pretty much now is focused on the new staff that we transition in every year. However, if there's a staff member who maybe it's been several years since they last attended, they're more than welcome to go once we get the new staff members into that cohort.
And I think that would be your hook, you know, that expectation, because most of our staff members should know that term, and that could be a good hook for you to get in your area. You know, and I would think that you're going to find your elementary staff are a little bit more trained in this area, because that's just the way the training goes. Because your big job is going to be the secondary and the middle school. It's a big project.
I believe that's it for Terry, correct? Yes. All right. Okay, moving on to our Director of Primary Education, Teresa Schoen.
Thank you. My first item is to seek your approval of the professional leave request included in your packet.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco,
Second.
second from Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions regarding those professional leave requests? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And second item is to seek your approval of the field trip requests that were also included in your packet.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Suze. I guess I'll second that motion because I didn't hear anything. Okay. Any comments or questions regarding the field trip requests? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And my final item is just an update. I shared with you at the last board meeting that we were planning to have preschool directors and teachers in to attend our transition to kindergarten program, and it was very successful. We had more attendees than we have ever had, and we had 20 that ended up coming, and we give them a survey at the end, and we had nothing but positives. They did have some suggestions on what they would like us to add next year, so we're going to work on that, but they were very appreciative of the partnership. So it was good.
Excellent.
And I love that you're getting the input from them to help guide the program. It's great.
Thank you, Teresa. All right, moving on to our Director of Secondary Education, Sarah Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I am seeking your approval for the professional leave request, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Marshall and a second from Ms. Lessentine. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I am seeking your approval for the field trip requests.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malka. We have a second from Mr. Marshall.
Thank you.
All right, any comments or questions regarding the field trip requests? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And then for my last item, I just wanted to inform the board that one of the things we are looking to implement at the middle school next year are the math lab classes. What we've been finding is that our students, especially with the middle school schedule where they're having 47-minute class periods in which they're trying to get through quite a few state standards and skills, is that they really aren't having enough time to address remediation that needs to be done. We do have our students currently working with an interventionist one period during the day where they are allowed to use the iReady program as well as get some additional help with their homework and things like that from a paraprofessional. But we know that were they given more access to one of our trained, highly qualified math teachers, that would have a much greater impact on it. And so what we're looking to do is to add a math teacher to each of the middle schools. We don't envision the new person that we hire taking the lab classes. What we'd like to do is to give those lab classes to our current staff members who we know tend to have the greatest impact on our students who are struggling and the ability to build relationships with our students. And free up their day in a couple of class periods by adding this additional person. So really what we'd be doing is adding 3 extra sections to the schedule. At the middle school, we also tend to have some higher class periods towards the end of the day because 5th grade is on prep. And so we typically have to buy out some prep time from people at either the elementary or the high school, and this person could absorb one of those sections as well. The other benefit of this is because we are going to be adding a couple of new sections to each middle school, it would then just decrease class sizes across the board in our math at the middle school level. And so we are hoping to post for those soon, so that way we can try to scoop up some of the best candidates from recent graduations or other districts and people who might be looking.
So what would a daily lab class look like for a teacher then?
For a daily lab class, what we're envisioning is that there isn't homework. We don't want this to be an additional thing that the students have to do. We want that teacher to be able to go into the iReady program and look at the data that's in there from those diagnostic assessments and figure out what needs do those students have, to analyze that and then work with those students on the skills that they seem to be most lacking in. And some of that could be whole group instruction if they find a common theme. Some of that could be creating centers where they're able to work with different groups of students on different levels of skills. We're going to have them work with the math coach once we determine who is teaching those classes to prep for that. But we don't foresee additional homework, a lot of additional testing other than to gather formative information on those students.
And how many kids will be in a class for the math lab?
We haven't set a limit yet. I think that we want to look at the current data that we do have and see how many students would we need to have this. Clearly, by adding a full staff member, we have some wiggle room. If we needed 2 sections of it, we could do 2 sections of it.
And have we considered at all that maybe the length of the class period at the middle school needs to be changed, and that's part of the issue, is the 47 minutes, that needs to be lengthened, or have we not considered that at all?
I don't know, and this is where I'm going to shoot myself in the foot, I don't know if necessarily more math is better math. I think that for some of our students that the 47-minute class period is fine. It is a bit of a grind on our teachers as someone who has taught middle school before. Trying to get through everything you need in that shortened class period is a little bit rough. It's why with the language arts classes we do have the blocks so they have that additional time for reading and writing and those things that tend to take more time. I will say with middle school attention spans, I don't know if we could push them much past the 47-minute limit on a regular basis with instruction. I feel like with the lab classes, because it's going to be more of the remediation and the skill building, that's something that will be much more manageable for that group of students that truly needs it.
See, and I would think the opposite, because in math, it takes time to process. And if you have a kid that can't process through a problem because they have to get through it in 47 minutes and you're not giving that time to process, especially when the one counselor down here said that that's part of the issue in middle school, is them being able to keep themselves focused and make that processing. I appreciate the lab class coming up, but I definitely want to see how it's going to be set up. I just don't want it to end up being a study hall or these kids on a computer for 47 more minutes, because you're saying more math isn't better math, but now we're doubling their math by giving them a lab.
Correct.
So we are giving them more math, but now we're not giving them time to process with.
A class with a teacher who actually is going to address those skills. Right now they are in an intervention class that is like a study hall where they can work on homework and ask questions. It is where we put them on the iReady program. I mean, it is a good program, but in the end, they are just on a computer, and that is not the same as having conversations with a teacher about what I'm struggling in class.
Okay. All right.
So do you anticipate that what's the assessment you're talking about, iReady?
Yes.
iReady?
Mm-hmm.
Will those results be any different than the iLearn results?
They are. We've been using it for a number of years. I've brought it to the board before.
But I mean, with the iLearn, it's going to be all based on the student's ability, right? I mean, it's going to self-regulate.
It's computer adaptive to their ability, so that will give us a more fine-tuned data point on them instead of the old pass, did not pass, pass plus.
Right. So you look for it to be advantageous then to...
Definitely. It is still all within grade level. We definitely have some students who are struggling below grade level, and that's the nice part of the iReady diagnostic, is it does measure them below grade level as well, whereas the iLearn only stays on grade level.
How do kids get into the lab class?
We're going to review data that we have. We're probably going to look at our RTI students that are currently already getting some assistance and need help with that.
And when will you get back to us to let us know class sizes for that?
After we fill the courses.
Thank you, Sarah. I noticed that our Director of Special Education, Becky Grimal's not here, but
I'll take her.
you'll take that? Okay, thank you.
For Mrs. Grimala, she simply has a professional leave request. And seeking your approval for.
Move to approve.
A motion for Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And our Director of Facilities, Bill Ledger's not here, but I'm assuming Mr.
Rob's going to handle it.
Mr. Rob's going to handle that section.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Bill's first item is just to give the board an update on the maintenance building and the demolition of the old. If you've driven by during spring break week, the demolition started on the old green building, and we are happy to report that since the last board meeting, that has been completely demolished and taken away. The backfill has been put in and it was stoned over spring break. So the whole maintenance building project is completely done at this point. So Bill did have a little cost summary in your board packet, and as we traded some emails today, I gave you some explanations on that. So are there any questions on the maintenance building update before I move on to Bibbit Watson?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then just briefly, the Bibbich Watson security vestibule renovations are proceeding in the sense that we received a permit from Dyer this last week for the work at Bibbich, and Bill expects to have the permit for Shareable by the end of this week. And then we're still on pace to start that immediately after the end of school. So nothing else on that. From Bill's standpoint, do you have any questions?
Any questions regarding Bill's items? No? No. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. We'll stay with Rob James.
Okay, I'll put my hat on now. Okay, so the first item on my agenda is to seek the board's approval to publish a notice in the newspaper for a joint hearing on projects that we'd like to do on for an upcoming general obligation bond. That is the first step in the process, would be to put the notice in the paper, and then at our regularly scheduled board meeting on May 6th, we would hold a public hearing during the course of the regular meeting, and then we would ask the board to pass a variety of resolutions to proceed forward with a general obligation bond here in 2019. So right now is just to seek your approval to put the publication of the hearing in the newspaper.
Move to approve.
A motion from Ms. Lessentine?
Second.
And a second from Dr. Malkow. Any comments or questions regarding that notification? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item has to do with our food service department. In recent years, we utilized the Northwest Indiana Education Service Center to handle the RFP for our food service bids for the dairy, bread, and grocery items. But the service center is no longer providing that service for us. So for this upcoming year, we wish to join with the Food to School Purchasing Cooperative with several other schools. There is no cost for us to join for this process, and they will provide the same service that the service center has done for us in the previous year. So we seek the board's approval to join in this cooperative for the 1920 bids for the dairy, bread, and grocery bids.
Move to approve.
A motion from Ms. Suze.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions regarding this new food to school purchasing cooperation agreement? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek professional leave request for myself and our corporation treasurer, Kathy Rama, to attend the IASBL annual meeting in Fort Wayne, May 8th through 10th.
So moved.
There's a motion from Dr. Malkow.
Second.
And a second from Ms. Lessentine. Any comments or questions regarding the professional leave request? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek your approval for the donations that were presented in your board packet.
Move to approve.
There's a motion from Ms. Suze, and I will second that motion. Any comment?
I have a comment.
Oh, regarding? Yeah.
Right.
The donations?
Yes. It struck me as being very receptive to see that we have intra-school cooperation by having the Clark Drama Club donate to a Grimmer School project. I'm glad to see that. In the past, there's been competition, especially in the extracurricular activities and everything. It's always heartwarming to see that one of our middle schools can donate for the benefit of another. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. All right, any other comments?
I agree. I noticed that too. I thought that was very nice.
Okay. Let's take a vote on this then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My final item is just to give the board an update on our unpaid 2018-2019 student fees, which is primarily textbook rental. As we've reported here for the last few years, this has been a growing problem for our school district where we've had a large proportion of delinquent amounts that we've had uncollected. So we've, over the last year or two, we have tried to implement more procedures in order to, get our parents to pay their textbook fees. Some of the things we've done we send out monthly statements to our families, even though when they log into Skyward to log into their student's account, they see those fees, but, maybe everyone doesn't check that all the time. So we generate statements, and those are emailed to families on a monthly basis so they can see it with the email that they provided to us during registration. So there are also some phone calls that are made here in January and February to remind people to pay their fees. And so we think that things are starting to turn. And I'll just throw some numbers out for you. Last year at this time, when we were remitting our delinquent amount to our collection agency, our textbook rental fund was around $900,000 in the hole. Now, at the end of March, at the same time, we are about $650,000 in the hole. So we have not only, I want to say, broken even, but we've also put some dirt back into the hole. So that's good. Last year, for the 17-18 school year, we remitted $352,000 worth of unpaid fees to the collection agency, and this year it was $240,000. So it was down by about 30%, and that the number of students was very comparable. Last year it was 1,523 students. This year was 947. So again, by about a third, the amounts have decreased. So we're trying to provide additional information to our agency to help with those collection of fees, and still trying to maintain a good relationship with our parents, reaching out to them, knowing that there's families out there who probably are struggling, and we really try to encourage them to apply for textbook and lunch assistance. Those are programs that are out there for kids and for families who are in need, so we want them to take advantage of that. So I think we're getting in the right direction. I can't put a time frame on how long it's going to take to get back to even, but we definitely like what we're seeing. So do you have any questions?
No, that's good to hear. I mean, that was a considerable amount last year. It's good to hear that there has been a dent made in those collections.
Yep, we're fine.
So has the free and reduced percentage for the appropriation gone up?
Not materially. It hovers around 20-21%. Yeah. So.
Any other questions for Rob? All right, thank you, Rob.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, moving on to public comments, which I don't believe we have any public comments this evening. So we'll move on to board comments and consideration of future agenda items. And start with Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Malco?
I just would like to remind the administrators, I'd like to see the referendum wish list that you've put together. I know we've heard about the need for counselors at the high school and middle school and math support at the middle school, but I want to make sure our elementary gets the appropriate support. So sure that we get that information sometime. That would be so much appreciated. Thank you, that's all.
All right, thank you, Dr. Malcolm. Ms. Lessington?
I'll add on to that I know that Mr. Bagley said that there's some cool AP classes coming up in the high school.
Well, we've already offered
Oh, gotcha. Right. Awesome. So yeah, that would be what I would want to see in addition to that, is just what kind of cool classes do we have coming up that are going to be on the schedule. I have gotten multiple texts saying kudos to the sound team because they're all hearing everything online. They're like, we're loving it, so great job, it's working, so thank you, because Lord knows they text me if it's not working, so great job there. And I just wanted to correct myself when I said for the SRO, the $8,000 a year, that's $6,000 a year at the cost of $30,000. So I apologize, I looked at the wrong column, and I just wanted to correct my math. And thank you to staff for all you do. Finish strong and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Suze?
Congratulations to Rob on his award.
Yeah.
And look forward to the rally tomorrow.
All right. And I really don't have anything else to say besides, yes, congratulations, Rob, on your award. And also, I want to thank the counselors. Again, certainly, please extend my thank you. That was an awesome presentation to everyone. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Varacco.
Thank you, Mr. Baxa. We are off for 3 weeks, but when we come back on May the 6th, we've got a very special board meeting because we will be recognizing our Teacher of the Year for Lake Central for the 2018-19 school year, as well as recognizing our retirees who are going to be spending their last month with us at that point. That begins with a reception out here in the Freshman Commons at 6:30.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor?